Really excited.
Yeah.
Okay. First, no, I can't read it. He's having a hard time coming here once it started. Yeah, now they're all right. Yeah. I'm central. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so we're gonna do the call to order, please.
Droplet.
Here.
Mr. Budget.
Here.
Mrs. Lammo.
Here.
Mrs. Grove.
Here.
Mrs. Berkman.
Here.
Mr. Medina.
Here.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Here. Okay, so pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Introduction of guests.
So we have our entire AI committee over in the red chairs. And then we have some staff. I'm assuming they want to hear AI committee and some other things, as well as some family back there. So welcome, and we're glad you're here.
Okay, awards and recognition.
Yes, so I would like to read the resolution for School Board Member Day, which is actually today. But I know what really matters is the gift in front of you. I hope you'll enjoy it and not share all of them with your family, but keep a few for yourselves. But I would like to read the resolution out loud. Whereas school board members are elected to sit in trust for their diverse communities, and in that capacity are charged with meeting the community's expectations and aspirations for the public education of their children. And whereas school board members are entrusted with the guardianship and prudent expenditure of tax dollars, and they are responsible for maintaining and preserving the buildings, grounds, and other areas of the school district that the community has put in their trust. And whereas school board members are responsible for providing leadership that ensures a clear, shared vision of public education for their schools, that sets high standards for the education of all students and requires the effective and efficient operation of their district. And whereas school board members adopt public policy to give voice to that leadership and employ a superintendent to administer board policy, and are also responsible for the regular monitoring of the district's performance and compliance with state policy. And whereas school board members selflessly volunteer countless hours to public service with no compensation, and whereas school districts face constant challenges, and the strong, dedicated leadership provided by the Chicago Ridge School District 127.5 Board of Education has allowed student learning and success to continue. And whereas employers are supportive of their employees who serve as school board members, generously lending support and time, employers give their employees the opportunity to better serve the needs of the school districts and communities they represent through sometimes tremendous sacrifice to the employer. And whereas decisions made by school board members directly impact the quality of life and safety in their communities, placing them as the front line of local democracy. Therefore, be it resolved, we proclaim November 11, 2025 as School Board Members Day as a way to honor those citizens who devote their time and energy for the successful education of our children and future leaders. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for all the time you put in, the thought, you really caring about the students, the staff, the community. I think that really shows through on this board, and we're very lucky to have all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, 3.0 presentation, the AI guidelines for CRC.
Yes, so we're very excited. We have been working on AI guidelines back since September. We met twice in September and then once again in October to really try to formulate guidelines for our staff and students around AI, and to even be able to talk to families about what appropriate usage might look like. Lots of staff have gone to like one-off AI presentations. Our admin team had Mr. Eric Santos come out and speak with us, and there's just a lot of change going on with AI. One of the first things that they shared with us is if you put a policy in place, like a hard and fast policy, by the time it gets approved and put up on your website, there will be pieces in there that have already changed that you're going to have to pull out and readopt something different. So what we keep hearing over and over again, instead of having a specific guideline or a specific policy, have guidelines that help the teachers understand what their responsibility and role is, have students understand what they can and cannot do, and also have a way that families can support. So we're going to present those guidelines to you today. And then our hope is that after presenting it, we'd like to come back in December and have the board adopt guidelines. Because in January, our Institute Day will be Eric Santos coming out and speaking after we present our team to the rest of the staff so that they are really understanding what it is. This is something we've been talking about for probably 6 to 8 months about getting guidelines, and I was really feeling like we are way far behind of everyone. I was at a 218 articulation meeting, I think about 6 weeks ago, and 218 asked, hey, has anyone looked at anything AI? We're just going to start probably in November, December, starting to look at some AI things. Other than us, not one other person raised their hand. So 218 is going to be working on it throughout the year. And that's what I'm hopeful for, that we can get something in place, knowing that it will be a fluid document. It has to be in this case. But then we can start seeing what other people have, and maybe they have a few best practices that we don't have included. But we'll talk about how often we anticipate that we'll be reviewing this, and that you kind of hopefully get that. So we're going to go through the presentation that, of course, went out just when we're ready. But Megan and I both promised that this presentation would not be one you guys hear from us all the time. We wanted you to hear from our staff. So when our staff is going to do their slide, if you could introduce yourself, just the name, what your position is, and the school that you're at. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe Erin is going to be taking our first 2 slides for us.
Yes. I'm Erin Stapleton. I'm the library media specialist at Finley. And our slides, our guidelines are going to start with our vision for AI in education.
It's also a little
I understand. This is all day. I feel when I'm using my view, it's on a delay, and I'm always like, all right, hang on, guys. So our vision for AI, CRST 1275 recognizes AI's transformative potential to personalize learning, support staff, and foster creativity. We see AI as a tool that can make learning more personal, can help teachers work efficiently and spark creativity in classrooms. We also want to focus on keeping student information safe and maintaining honesty in all work, academic, and I have notes here, so I can keep going if I want. And 3 ways AI can help is by enhancing learning. I've got the first 2 slides here, so I'm good. AI can adjust lessons. It can give extra support so that every student can get what they need to succeed. And supporting staff, it can help with everyday tasks and free up time for staff to be able to focus on students and focus on instruction. And then we also want to prepare students to build skills they need to work in a world where technology and AI are part of everyday life. And our guidelines also have 4 definitions we want to talk about. The first is artificial intelligence, which just means computer systems that can think and learn like humans. They can recognize patterns, make choices, and create content. And some examples of that would be like ChatGPT or Gemini. We also want to talk about generative AI, which is different tools that create new content like images, code, or different prompts. This would be like Gemini or Copilot. Then another definition is adaptive AI, and this personalizes learning. This is where AI would personalize learning and adjust lessons to match students' progress. And then the last one is AI-assisted work. And that's where any work, teachers and students, is helped with AI or supported with AI, and then being transparent about that, students and teachers. We're gonna pass it on to the next person. Hello.
My name is Jennifer Nemec, and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Ridge Lawn. So Kelly and I are splitting this side. I'm going to do the left side. She's going to do the right side. But the 6 guiding principles. So 1 is human-centered. Teachers, students, and families remain in the center. And AI is supportive, but it doesn't replace the human judgment. Continuous improvement, ongoing professional development and biannual reviews, and then age appropriate. Guidelines vary by grade level for K through 8.
I'm Kelly Moore. I am from Central School, instructional math coach at Ridge Central School. The other half of the 6 guiding principles would be the equity and inclusion, transparency, and ethical use. The equity and inclusion would obviously promote access for all students, including those with disabilities and English language learners, without bias. We are going to be completely transparent because AI must be disclosed and accountable to our community. And then following the ethical use would be enhanced learning, creativity, and critical thinking. Yeah. Critical thinking. Wow. I'm gonna put my glasses on. Privacy and intellectual property.
So I'm Terrence Russell. I teach Smart Lab in Richland. Right here we have what's going to be acceptable, what isn't going to be acceptable. We're just looking at what we want teachers to be able to use for their own usage with AI. So some of the things on the left side, create differentiated lesson plans, which is important for our students with IEPs, generate prompts for student activities, provide formative feedback, model ethical AI use for students, teach AI literacy and digital citizenship, support administrative task scheduling, anonymized data analysis. So that, for instance, not putting in student-related data when you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or something when you're trying to get information or some sort of basis. Prohibited uses, final grading without human oversight, entering student personal data, using unvetted AI tools. We're going to get a list together to make sure staff and faculty understand which ones we can and cannot use, and then replacing curriculum standards with AI outputs. Key requirements for teachers, you must review it at all times, something that we look at all times, and modify all AI outputs to ensure alignment with curriculum standards and cultural responsiveness. So we just want to make sure that what we're putting in and what we're getting out makes sense to ourselves and also students.
Ian Kisner, assistant principal at Ridge Lawn. 2 big components that we talk a lot about are ethics and then privacy when we're looking at AI. So because AI is learning from different tools that are kind of out of our realm, it's learning from everything that's out on the internet, what we want to make sure is that we're screening which tools we decide to use for any bias that those might have. So really flushing through all the different AIs that are out there and saying, these are the ones we agree that we're going to use because they do kind of eliminate as much of the bias as possible. And then saying like, these are no-goes, it's not acceptable. We also want to look at intellectual property. So this is just how we teach the kids not to plagiarize. You're not going to take a book and you're not going to copy it and turn it into your own. We can use that AI for the support, but how do I refine it? How do I make it my own? What are the steps that I need to do? What are the prompts that I need to have that conversation with? And then still crediting when you're using that as a support piece. The biggest part is that data privacy. So we want to make sure that staff, students, parents, anyone that's using any kind of AI tool is maintaining the student's FERPA and SOPA laws. So we are not uploading any student-related data, no images, no ID numbers, that whatever we're doing in there is more on that general basis to protect our student safeguards. And then last, really looking at the student well-being, that AI is not going to be utilized to replace the human aspect of education. That's why our students show up every day. There's that human connection that we want to make sure we're maintaining. And so how do we teach the students? How do we make sure that the staff, that the parents are still maintaining the human aspect and seeing AI as a tool and not just as the fallback or go-to?
Yeah, so one of the things I jump right in, but Paul Malver, I teach 8th grade social studies at one of the things that I mentioned earlier, like what is age appropriate? So we put this together to kind of give you an idea of what is expected at different grade levels. For the most part, it kind of separated into pre-K-5 with the idea that we, and these are the guidelines that are out there, like students will not directly use AI at those levels. It might be used in class, it might be demonstrated by teachers, it might be involved in some instruction, but it's not something that students will act with directly. Where I teach at the middle school, they can use it. I love that I was able to play with this, and I told Megan, like, can I have kids play with Gemini? And we talked about, how do they like access it but use it appropriately? How do they give it credit? How do we keep track of their prompts? How do we teach them how to properly use AI? One of the things that I found out was that when they're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they can't do image generation. There's a lot of safety protections, and we talk about SOPA and what are we going to allow? And Gemini, I know, is very controlled in that within Google, but some of the stuff I read about ChatGPT, I know we're going to have these conversations because they have age appropriate guidelines, but it's easier with ChatGPT to lie about your age. So these are some of the things that we are going to be addressing with kids, but we want to teach them how to appropriately use it. And it was a challenge when I gave it to kids to have them like, well, how do I make it better? I'm like, well, you are the one feeding it prompts to try to generate something that is based on what we were learning. And Megan saw something like we did AI image generation, but they did it through my account. So it was through my prompts and my direction. Some of them chose to do like creative writing samples, but they had to constantly put in data and prompts to guide what they wanted it to look like. Either way, like you'll see that difference. And we hope at middle school that, all of it is always about teaching, not to have it be a crutch, not to rely on it, but to use it appropriately. And I know that's what, I've talked with Aaron a lot about that, like how do we teach students at that level and have them use it without thinking that it does the work for them, but it's to support it for them. So that's kind of just what to expect for the different age levels. Thank you.
Emily Geyer, Assistant Principal at Ridge Central. So a lot of this has been touched on already, but a huge part of this is just teaching students how to use AI with integrity and following certain guidelines, because it should be a tool to enhance our learning and enhance our instruction, not just make things easier or make it a shortcut. So first, again, I mentioned before, citing the AI use, whether I know some people have made like a logo that said created by AI and reviewed by, and then the name, or just putting that quote at the bottom. Avoiding plagiarism, so not taking what AI spits out and just turning it in as your own. And then for teachers specifically, emphasizing that process. So maybe you have an assignment and you say, I really like this, but I want to turn into something that can allow us to be more creative or really use their critical thinking skills better. So taking that to enhance what we already have. And then as teachers, obviously having those ongoing conversations about these, use it with integrity so that they can use it responsibly and in a way to enhance instead of replace.
Megan Hofnagel, Curriculum Director for Chicago School District. And the left side, as we can expect, we need to provide professional development and learning around AI. So as Dr. Thorns had said in January's Institute, we will be bringing out Eric Santos, and our AI committees will be presenting these guidelines to our staff, but then also providing more AI education of AI literacy to our staff as a whole. But we will also be providing ongoing as things change, as more tools come out. We'll be providing a professional development for our staff. And also information on those tools, the variety of tools once we determine which tools are going to be best for our students and staff, making sure that our staff are equipped to use those tools successfully, and then also the students. So providing that age-appropriate AI education for our students to enhance that digital citizenship skills and usage within the school setting when they're here. And then, as always, we want to make sure that we also think about what happens when there is misuse of AI. So on the right side, we do want to, and we did talk as a committee about what happens when they misuse that, what happens when they just copy and paste, or they do not directly state that they've used AI to come up with that. And so we will use progressive discipline policies. It's on a case by case. It depends on how much they copied and pasted. It depends on the severity of that usage. But one thing that we have to understand, and I believe we had a pretty in-depth conversation about this at the AI committee, is that this is new for a lot of our students. And so they don't know yet what is misuse. So what we really need to focus on is when we are identifying that students are using it or even possibly misusing it, that we are emphasizing the restorative practices. So we might identify that they're misusing it, but we want to take some time now to teach them how to properly use it in those situations. So we might have students using it to complete math homework. But what we want to do is take that and ask them, why did they use it? What was the reason for using it? And then what are ways that we can teach the students to use it properly in those situations?
So as an AI committee, we want to make sure that we're keeping a pulse on how it's going and how teachers are using it, how students are using it. So in order to monitor and evaluate this, the committee is going to continue to look at different tools, how they're being used, when they're being used, and then collecting feedback and insights throughout the year, whether it's surveys or observation, conversations to make future decisions on what maybe needs to change or what we need to add or take out, especially as Dr. Thorne said, as AI is constantly changing and evolving.
And we will review and revise these guidelines, as Dr. Thorne said, and as we've heard in a lot of the professional development that we've received over AI, is that this is constantly changing. So it is a living document, and the AI committee has committed to biannually getting together to review the guidelines, making sure that we are looking at, is this still current? And gathering feedback from students and staff and families about, do we need to make some changes? Do we need to look at this differently? Do we need to look at those tools? And then, which I think is a very important dot on that second part of that slide there, updating and those changes, communicating those updates district-wide. So making sure that if changes are made at the committee level, that in some way those changes to those guidelines are being shared out with the staff again. So the bottom here I do think is important to bring to everyone's attention, that these guidelines represent our commitment to be responsible in the AI world and integration in our school district, to make sure that our students are upholding the values around AI, and that together we are working to prepare our students in a technology-driven world. So I thank the AI committee for dedicating their time, but also staying late and being here and presenting. I know how difficult it can be to stand up. And so thank you to all of you. But then I also want to open it up to the board for any questions.
I had the chance to look at it earlier, and I appreciate how everything was fully vetted out. I like the levels of incorporation gradually, and then how to use it. I still struggle as a English teacher on how you can use it in actuality without it generating your ideas. Some of the programs you mentioned, I'm curious the level that you looked at Perplexity, which is another program. So Perplexity is very much like ChatGPT, but does not gather data and keep the data. And it also fully vets out sources and looks them up, as opposed to ChatGPT, which is just not always the same. So it's just a recommendation of something you might want to recommend. And also for teachers as a tool, there is an extension tool called Brisk, which will check students' level of AI generation on their sheet, also see how much is copy and pasted, and it goes onto Google Docs. It's a Chrome extension. And so just supporting both sides, I think, is super important. And the gathering of data, some of it we just don't know where it goes, especially with ChatGPT. And if you're putting students' names in and things like that. So I absolutely appreciate. I still struggle as a parent and as a teaching professional, even using Grammarly. It will change your word choice, and then it, I think, prevents students from understanding how to have style in the writing. And so it changes the diction and the use of verbiage and comma structure. So I feel like it is going to be ever evolving. So when you say this is going to be revised, I'm sure it is. But I do applaud you guys and appreciate the dedication, because it really is in the teachers all the time daily to figure out how to integrate this, because they're going to use it. We're all using it. We're all using it. So sorry, Joanna, I saw your hand.
Nice. Go ahead. Well, I took some notes. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really familiar at all with AI stuff. I do wanna suggest maybe with their Chromebooks, when they log in, maybe have like some kind of disclaimer or warning about the AI stuff. And it's something that can be done. Just a reminder, who's monitoring this? Is this gonna be monitored by the committee?
Like daily usage, or
Yeah.
I think GoGuardian and the classroom teachers, I would assume.
So, the computer, okay. And then how can we ensure or limit the AI so the kids know how to think on their own?
And I would say that's the biggest question. And it's having these conversations that are important, because I would guess at least 60% of our kids use it in some way, whether it's school-wide or at home. So it's having those conversations, starting to like figure that out. I would say, like, when Google first came out, they were having those same conversations. When calculators came out, they were having those same. This is just so much more extreme because it's harder to monitor. So, very good question.
So, sorry,
Stacy.
Yeah. So, and this is coming from somebody, I have no school experience whatsoever, but I do use AI in the legal field very often, and due to confidentiality and stuff like that, we are very careful in the legal field with AI and everything like that. And I think there are closed loop. I know the AI that I use is closed loop, so any information that I put in is, nobody else has it except for us, you know what I mean? And I do think you're definitely doing a good service by starting them and generating it. It's just gonna be a lot of it. So just today, I put a bunch of information in the AI. I was like, I need to draft an agreement between these 3 people to build this, and this is what I need. And out come a page document, and I had to go through it, check all the citations. I had to make sure it was referencing the correct law, make sure it had everything that I wanted in it. And, you know, I literally had to read through it line by line. But that said, it saved me an hour and a half of my time personally writing it. And I'm new to this, and then these kids, this is gonna be the norm for them. They enter into their fields, their respective fields, and I think a lot of it is just gonna be teaching them to put the person in the AI. Like, I use AI every day, but I literally have to read through that document and put my own input into it. And there's times where I've got like 80 prompts, same thing. No, I want you to say this. No, I want you to say that. So I think that's gonna be like a big part, is learning how. I have 20 years of legal experience. That's where my human comes in. But where do you teach somebody in the beginning how to humanize it? And I love that you guys are trying to figure that out. So that's all. So.
You're gonna let Joy out.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
Joy. Okay, so thank you so much. Most of what I'm gonna ask, I don't really expect an answer to, but these are just thoughts running through my head. Thank you so much for being here. I love AI. I think it's wonderful. I do think that it's scary for us because it's so new, but when our kids are sitting in these chairs one day, it's gonna be like, you know, google.com, and something old and lame because something new will arise. Here are my questions. I want you to know also that I'm coming from a social work perspective through this, okay? Will the tech department have any ability to cover prompts and inappropriate things that are put into AI? You know, I know sometimes we have, like, in our emails, if someone says something inappropriate, we get flagged. Will there be, maybe there's no answer, but we could keep it around here, something to manage inappropriate prompts? Because, I mean, it's middle school. Okay, so we were talking about intellectual property as well as the data privacy. Are we going to log in through the Google, you know how all the kids, when you go to that main website that has all the things.
Clever.
Thank you. And you click on it, and you know, I just watched Zeke like just tap, 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 and the whole world expands. Is Perplexity or whomever you choose, will that be in Clever? And if so, how are we going to manage this AI kind of learning our children's personalities? Or is that something we want it to do? And to follow the growth of our students, you know, again, I have no idea. AI is crazy. Crazy cool. It's scary too. Okay, and
Sorry, guys, bear with me. Yeah, no, I think I have one more. Okay, how are we going to monitor AI in the classroom, particularly when we have tests and quizzes, especially in math? Something that would be so very easy. You know, I know there's GoGuardian and other things. I hope while we are pushing this through and teaching it, you know, not to add more work on their plates, but that teachers are using things like GoGuardian more to ensure that our students aren't, you know, screen splitting and doing all the things and all of a sudden.
To make a scene on GoGuardian, I'm sure most teachers know it, and some test taking formats have what's called lockdown browser, where you can't leave it, although I still get kids cheating because I can't function it properly. Yeah, it's something that I agree that everyone has to be sure they're trained on, because even if you're not monitoring and they have their phone, it's very, very easy.
Yeah, or like the watch or
To
whatever.
watch.
And the last thing I wanna mention is that we know how wonderful this AI can be, and it's also from some of the things that I'm reading in the social emotional world is not always healthy, especially for our students who can't find their way and is just looking for like somewhere to fit in. These AI generators, they talk to you so kindly and so sometimes with empathy, and it can be confusing and it's difficult to navigate for these kids. Like, you know, some of them already have a hard time making friends. They have all these friends across the world thanks to, you know, Roblox and whatever else. But I worry for the social emotional piece. I worry that they're going to look things up. You know, we're seeing things all over the news now with self-harm, suicidal ideation, that they're asking AI about it, and AI is kind of like, good luck, you know? And where Chrissy's worried about her boring ELA stuff, I'm worried about the stuff that really matters. But it is a concern.
Ever had to know what an adverb was at a stop sign? Never. Ruined your day not to know where it comes from. I
That's a good
agree.
point, because we didn't really talk about any social emotional stuff.
Yeah,
in our
I
expectations for
appreciate that part of, I bring the English, you bring the.
We all bring our things.
So yeah, no, I appreciate it.
But thank you again. It was fantastic. I've been looking forward to this.
I was curious, do we currently use any AI programs?
I can speak on that. Right now, within the last couple of months, I've used Magic School AI, which is approved through SOPA. And speaking to some of the questions asked too, some moderation type things. Magic School AI moderates it itself too, which is really nice. It flags specific things. So I took a look recently. Some of the things I know to flag is things related to whether or not a kid is really interacting with the AI at all. So a kid could go in, type a message, type a question, and get a response from the AI, but then what they do with that is exactly that, what they do with that. So it'll tell me whether or not they're proceeding with it. Nothing really alarming has shown up, but it's nice to just see that there's some companies out there that are building in levels of moderation. I've also used code.org to teach coding and basically how AI and coding work one-on-one together, so they can basically determine what is trash and what is a fish. And then at the end, it pretty much explains to them, like, you taught the AI, you gave it the data set, it learned from you. So within code.org, it also has a moderation level to it, shows me how far they progressed.
And then like Paul had shared, he was using ChatGPT.
Gemini.
Thank you, through his account, which, thank you. Gemini is part of our Google Workspace, which is purchased for the district. Our students have Google accounts, our staff have Google accounts, so it is part of our Google Waffle, which is part of the 9 dots. So we do have access to that. Our tech department already put an age restriction on that for all of our students, to ensure that they cannot access anything over than 18 plus at this point. But we do have other options in order to create gems where that's age specific.
So right now, like a kindergartner is 18 plus?
That's the lowest restriction that Gemini has, yeah.
Yikes.
But Gemini shouldn't, if they log into their school account and it has all the data and age information, it shouldn't let it use it. It was nice and restrictive, and I saw how it changed
Right.
day to day as students use it.
Okay.
And the students were like, can I do this prompt? Gemini was good because it said, no.
As
Yeah.
age graders, that they
Yeah.
weren't able to do the image creation.
Or not just the image creation, we even did like other prompts. So like, can I show them fighting? Right, because it's history. And we tried to put that in, like, no, it will not allow you to do certain things. And that was just like, I know I wanted to lose Gemini because I knew it was kind of tied in with their Google account to really protect against that age limit and restriction.
I think Gemini is one of those closed loop.
Yeah.
Yes, it does not keep any record of it.
Yeah, a lot of the other resources like Magic School, those are not free. Where Gemini comes with our Google Workspace.
We like free. And then again, I was just as an ELA teacher, how will we know / prove when students are using AI?
So what we are asking, or what we will be presenting to the staff, is that, and working with teaching the students as well, is that we want them or encourage them, they should be identifying on their documents in some way that they used AI in some way with that content. So it's say, I can't remember, generated with ChatGPT, or generated and then edited by Megan Nagel, would be on that. And then we would be working through educating the students on human, Jack, human. So you put the prompt in, what prompt did you put in? Here's the content, then what should you do to edit it to make sure that it was yours?
So is there a way for like a teacher to see that process?
If we're working on using those resources in school, yes.
And Laura, I would just like to speak. So we had Eric Santos, he presented to us. It's nearly impossible for a teacher to be able to tell completely. One of the things he had done is he wanted us to let him know if we felt this prompt was done by AI or by a human, and he even put it in one of those like anti-AI things to spit it out. And so no, a human created this, but he was able to put it in there and say like, make sure you make errors, make sure it's no higher than a B+ work done by a 7th grader. It's almost, you can trick almost every software that's out there right now. So we don't have a perfect answer. I think the whole thing is making sure we don't just ignore it, because if we do, they're going to use it anyway. So trying to teach it, trying to educate ourselves, and hopefully things will eventually get it where it's an even feel. But even in like the classes I teach for college, like, they're using it, and it's trying to figure out how to get them to do it responsibly. There's still going to be people who take advantage of it.
I know with HMH, the Writable program, you can see like every step of the drafting process, so you can go back and see if they just copy and pasted things like and didn't do anything with it, or.
And that's what Google Docs does as well. You can look at the edit history, you see minute by minute by minute. Even without Brisk, you can just look at the edit history and it'll show you the whole minute thing, which is something that I use. I guess like when you talk about the academic integrity, I mean, I read the policy of that we have under here, which is academic integrity, plagiarisms, including submitting AI work as original or using AI during assessments would be, I guess, punishable. Or a learning moment, so to speak. But I mean, for what you said, I guess it pulls it out further. There's no always 100% way, so we are going to take teacher discretion, I'm hoping, because teachers know their students' voice. I mean.
But I will also say though that teachers have been sued in court when they have said they used AI, but they couldn't prove it.
Yeah,
So it's
well,
finding,
that's the
it's finding
thing,
that
yeah.
balance. It is, it's like the Wild West right now. And I feel like our job is to just start educating, but you still have to have guardrails, and those guardrails may adjust as time goes on.
That might be something that's included in, and perhaps you already spoke about it, but something that's included on the form that we sign off on for technology, like a little an AI agreement between and the parent signature, that I'm acknowledging that if my son's teacher thinks that he used AI inappropriately, that I understand that I'm trusting her or him and the school district.
Within their policy. Well, it is when we did the school policies and came up with the guide handbook, we did add that academic dishonesty and AI generator in the committee. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember what it was, but I knew I was there.
Well, we again want to thank
Yes,
the
thank
AI
you very
committee.
much.
We know you guys want to stay all night. Misty, big Illinois grad, we'll pick up at 7:30. But if you guys want to stay, you're more than welcome. We can also take off if you want. So,
Thank you.
Okay, 4.0 approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Buzzard.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mr. Durkin. Aye. Mrs. Rhodes. Aye. Mr. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mr. Cox.
Aye. 5.0 superintendent report.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump right in because that was a very good but longer presentation. I want to make sure we get to the other things. Our enrollment report, we're at 1,556 students. Actually went down 9 students this month, but we're still over 60 people when we had at this time last year. And I know we had at least 2 or 3 families come and register just yesterday and today. So the PTA report, really excited. We had our big teacher night, and I know a lot of you came out. I got to work the drive-through for the 3rd year in a row. We had one person yell at me because I didn't give them straws, but I did pretty good this year. But we made $500 in ties and another $545 that we got from register. So we're $1,000. The support, just seeing the amount of families come out, it's always a very fun night.
It was taxed.
Standing room only, so.
And there was so many staff there working it until, I thought it was only until 8. I felt like we were there much, like, there was a lot of staff. It was very, very well attended, very nice.
Very fun. Vacant positions and possible staffing needs, pretty similar to what they've been. We do have an EL teacher at Ridge Lawn that we were looking for. We have someone that I'll talk about later who is resigning. We actually interviewed someone today that was pretty interested in, so that is our one newer position on there. We have parent-teacher conferences coming up, which is really hard to believe. Thursday, November 20th from 4:30 to 7:30, and then Monday, the 24th from 12:30 to 3:30, and then again from 5 to 8. And then after that conference, then the staff has the rest of the week off for Thanksgiving break.
The parent teacher in the school district, if they're going back.
I believe that's what we settled on. Yes, yes. And then 5.5 is the Triple I conference. First, wanted to let you know if you didn't see it in our big table here, but your badge is there. Please don't lose the badge.
I have to go at 5 a.m. and not let Laura know. And get a new one?
We do have Mrs. Travel is going to represent the district as the delegate. As we talked, I think it was maybe 2 months ago already. The delegate things to vote on this year, there's not a whole lot. It's almost all delegate stuff. The only one on there that I really recommend you vote yes is there is another unfunded mandate on school buses and making sure that they all have seatbelts moving forward, which sounds really good. And you don't have to go out and buy new ones, but when you do buy new ones, by I think it's 2031, they have a seatbelt on it. Right now in today's market, they anticipate that will be an extra $7,000 to $18,000 a bus to do that without giving us any money. So basically, what that one thing on their resolution is to go ahead and say, if you're going to do that, you should also have grants available for schools that can't afford it.
And they could have an opt-out on there for smaller school districts. Most of it was legalities for the constitution of the, none of it was like last year, how there was like 18 things about that.
And then, again, I sent out an email to just sign up for the different sessions that you were interested in. Please make sure you do that. I think what's made this conference so worth going to is that we come back and we discuss it. And if we're not all sitting in one, we can really learn from each other. So we'd really like you to fill that out.
You and I are the only ones on there right now.
And Joanna sent me all
Okay,
hers
thanks.
via text, so I gotta get those put in there. And then last, you guys know that Lori does a great job, making sure everything's taken care of. She'll be sending an email out shortly, with all of that information. Thank you. 5.6, the IAR summited designations, did come out, and they always come out right at the end of October, and we had all three of our buildings, again, were commendable. So the letter, the official letter is in there. We talked, and Megan will maybe talk a little bit later, just kind of how the cutoff scores changed this year. Next year, they're changing how schools are put into the different buckets. So now they have exemplary, commendable, targeted, and I don't even know what the last one is, we don't want to be in there. But next year, they're going to move it to exemplary, commendable, approaching, developing, and comprehensive. So they're adding one in between exemplary and, they're adding it between commendable and developing, the approachable. They also anticipate that about 50% of the state will fall under that approachable. So based on our scores, we think we could probably fall in either approaching or we can get a little bit higher, some commendable. So we'll see how it goes, but they just keep switching things around. So hopefully after this, it will have that full baseline that we can look at moving forward. And then 5.7, my last one on here is calendar graduation update. I am going to ask the board a little bit later to vote to revise the calendar. Nothing that impacts any staff, but we are looking at graduation for 8th grade. We originally had it for June 2nd. Richards is starting their big construction. I know they're getting an extra gym and other things. Eisenhower just finished up theirs, and Shepherd is also going through construction. So they are not able to have that date. Mr. Younger did a very good job of negotiating. We finally were able to settle on Thursday, May 28th. We did look at some outside places. Again, it would cost thousands and thousands of dollars to host it. I know in the past we hosted it at some of the Park District facilities, and then you're only able to give about 2 tickets per family. Here, we're able to have a lot more family there. I do think it's really nice that our 8th graders and their families get to kind of graduate at the high school. Most of them are going to be going to the next year. So I would recommend that change. And just if we do go with that, unfortunately, I found out a couple of days later that I will not be able to attend graduation this year because I will be attending my own son's 8th grade graduation, which is also that date. But Mrs. Petropolis said that if she needs to, she'd be willing to jump in and give a 20, 25-minute speech here.
No problem.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. ChatGPT doing me dirty sometimes, so I gotta use my own.
And my only other, just we celebrated all day today our veterans. So anyone who's watching this who is a veteran, just wanted to thank you for your support. Really enjoyed spending time at breakfast. I know the other buildings had things as well, but it's just always a nice way to remember them. And I know a lot of you with school in the schools probably did the same things either today or on another day. So I just wanted to thank everyone.
All right, 6.0, curriculum director report.
Yep, so
Lost in there. Just looking at Caroline.
6.1 NWEA math and reading growth data. So in your board packets, you have the student growth summary report, which is the document that shows us the fall 2024 to 2025 student growth. The orangish gold diamond is what NWEA had predicted our students to grow from fall 24 to fall 25. And then the blue bar is what our students did grow. So that was the actual growth. So our kindergarten through 8th grade students took that assessment in the fall this year, in September. And our growth percentile in math was at the 50th percentile. And in the fall of last year, our math achievement was at the 51st percentile, and this year we're at the 52nd percentile. So we are seeing some growth and achievement, and we'll continue to work on those instructional strategies and increasing both growth and achievement over the course of the year. The district also experienced an increase in both growth and achievement in reading, which is exciting, especially with the implementation of a new resource. Last year at this time, our growth was at the 51st percentile and our achievement was at the 47th percentile. This year, our growth was at the 54th percentile, so we're up 3 percentile points. And our achievement is at the 49th percentile, so up 2 percentile points. So again, we will continue to monitor this closely, especially we're going into this second year of implementation of HMH, that new resource, K-8. Our teachers and our staff and administrators are working diligently to implement that resource, provide feedback, working on, now that we're in year 2, what are some things that we're looking at? Are we having conversations on data now, and what are some things that we can be doing more to boost that achievement and that growth even further? 6.2, the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, or IAR data, and the Illinois Science Assessment data, ISA. I did provide the board in your board packet a visual of this data this year. So you should see that. Oh, thank you. So last year, our 3rd through 8th grade students took the IAR and the ISA. This data did become available to us at the end of October. So I'm able to share this all with you. And we now have the state data to compare the district to. So as a district, 39.4% of our students are proficient or above proficient in ELA, or English Language Arts. That's compared to 53.1% of the state average. So we are below the state average in ELA, proficient and above proficient students. Our average growth percentile in ELA is at the 51st percentile, and that's above the state average, which we are growing more than the state, which is great because we want that growth in order to increase achievement. So we'll start to close that achievement gap if we are higher in growth over that state overall. As a district, 26.6% of our students are proficient or above proficient in the state standards in math, compared to 38.4 at the state level. So we're just slightly below that state average in math, and our average growth percentile is at 54.8, and the state is at 50. So we are even growing even more in math than we are ELA. We're 4.8 percentile points higher in growth in math. And again, that's great because again, the more percentile points, or the more we grow, the achievement gap will increase, and will minimize the gap, but increase our achievement, right? And then we don't have growth data for the science assessment because we're only assessing 5th and 8th graders. So you can't compare that data to year to year because those students move on. This is really just a way to capture the instruction for science. Test that's given to 5th and 8th graders every year, those students move on. But last year, our 5th and 8th grade students proficient and above proficient was 25.2%, and the state was at 44.6. So that's an area that we know, even at administrators, we've been talking about looking at in ways that we can continue to focus on science and the instruction and looking at that. It's not something we've looked at recently, but we will be focusing on that since we focus on ELA and math over the last several years. Science will be our next focus over the next couple of years. So we're encouraged that our growth is there, but we want to continue to monitor, of course, what we're doing, working with the teachers, working with the administrators on my end to make sure that those instructional strategies, the resources are there, that they're being implemented, that we're having those high quality tasks being implemented, raising the bar for our students so that we are continuing to see that growth and achievement. And I do not have enough.
From 7.0, Chief School Business Officials Report. Okay. Moment everyone's waiting for.
Here for the fun stuff.
Right? Okay, so no, you're fine, Lori. I'm just been waiting for this moment. I want to back up here. I'm going to be presenting the tentative 2025 tax levy to the Board of Ed. And not the most exciting topic we're ever going to talk about, but it is very, very important because last year we generated over $8 million tax revenue, and that represents about 30% of our revenue. So not exciting, but we really need to talk about it. So this is something we only talk about once a year. So I always like to go through the definitions, because levy and extension, it's language all its own. So this is a new slide, and I actually love it because, it's really crystal clear. The levy, the guy bowing down, is what we are asking the county to provide us through taxpayers. The extension is what, after they do all their math, that is what they're going to allow, and that is what you're going to see on your property tax bill. But then the third component there is the collections and distributions. Our district does not receive 100% of what the county bills on our behalf, but we really do have a very respectable 96, 97%. So it's a really good participation that we are collecting. Lots of terms here, lots of words. This is the most boring slide ever, so we're not going to talk about everything here, but you will hear me talk about balloon levy. And the balloon levy is kind of a buffer, if you will. There's a lot of things that impact the tax levy. We're going to talk about EAV, and we're going to talk about tax rates. Basically, this is an insurance policy. We are going to ask the county to allow us to balloon levy for $50,000. And that is just a cushion. If new property is higher than anticipation, or if EAV plummets next year, and then we are at our tax ceilings, that's going to be our buffer. One important thing I have to stress every single year is we can ask for all the money in the world, but the county is only going to grant us what we are legally entitled to. The other word in the orange, I think, is very important too. It's called the limiting rate. There are a couple funds within our accounting structure that we can only levy, we can only ask for so much. O&M is an example. We can ask 40 cents on the dollar. If that inequity of the EAV and tax rate, which I'm not going to get into, if that goes too high and that rate is higher than that 0.4, we virtually lose money. So out of all of that, those are the two takeaways here. They will never give us more than we are entitled to, but we are in jeopardy of losing money if we don't put in that balloon levy. And that balloon levy goes into the ed fund, and there is no limit on ed fund. So we put it there. CPI, we can ask for the lesser of 5% or CPI. CPI this year, or actually for last ending January 1, was 2.9%. So we can ask for 2.9% more than what we received last year. The prior CPI was 3.4, and then you'll see those real high purple ones in 2022 and 23 for the tax levy. Those actually exceeded 5%. So it was costing everybody in this room, whether you were a homeowner or you're working in the school district, it was costing us a lot more than 5% because that CPI was more. But we could only levy 5%. So 2.9 is getting, it's kind of getting back to what it used to be. So that's what we're going to be asking for. EAV is our equalized assessed evaluation. And I always have to share, this is not what your home is worth. If you have a $250,000 home, there's a fancy calculation, I'm not going to bore you with it, but the county looks at Chicago Ridge in total, and this is the language that they speak. The 2023, which is in kind of a funky orange, I lost my title there. That is a triannual assessment. So the county came in 2023 and reevaluated all the property. It happens every 3 years.
So you see that spike to $242 million. Very unusual that 2024 was almost identical, because traditionally when we're assessed, those next 2 years tend to go down. So in my evaluation for next year, I'm actually putting in a 3% decrease, just to be conservative. Again, with those crazy rates, we never wanted to go too high because we can lose the money. And right now, we are doing the 2025 tax levy. We don't know the EAV. We're not gonna know the EAV for 9 months. So it's always kind of a little bit of a guessing game there. Okay, so I already talked about why it's important. Working cap, special ed, and O&M have those tax rate ceilings. So if it goes up and down, we could potentially lose some money there. And the balloon levy always goes into the education fund because they do not have a ceiling. I like this slide because it talks about the collection of how much money is going to be generated. EAV and a tax rate have an inverse relationship. So if your value of your home goes up, your tax rate goes down, and vice versa. So the math, and of course I love the math end of it. Either way, it all comes out in the wash and how much we're gonna collect. So I always like to do this, but I also wanna say this $10 million scenario, that is not our district. That's just a borrowed slide. I should probably put a disclaimer on it, right? The little AI generated. This actually slides a lot of numbers, but we are legally bound to disclose this when we do this presentation. It's Public Act 103-0394. And what this says is we need to show the taxpayers how much money on hand we have in our fund balances. So bottom right hand corner, it's 1.35. And this is kind of a catch-22 because what it says is we have 1.35 times expenses in our bank. If at any time that number reaches 2.5, we actually have to share with the Illinois State Board of Education how we're spending that money. So we really need to share that now because here we are asking for taxpayer money. We already have this 1.35 in the bank, but it's certainly not the 2.5 that is kind of our limit that we don't want. Okay, in doing the levy, we have to make some estimates. I am anticipating a decrease of 3% for the EAV. Estimated new construction, I threw in $200,000, which really never exceeded that. We will be asking for the whole levy of the 2.9 and an extra $50,000 for a balloon levy. So this is all the math behind it. 2024 capped extension. That means last year the county put out bills of $7.9 million. That's the first big bar, okay? And what we're doing this year with the 2.9%, that is going to be the second line. We are anticipating no more than the 8.1 million. Again, not what we're asking. We're not talking about what we're asking. They are not going to give us more than $8.1 million unless we have crazy new property, which isn't going to happen. Now, the third line is what we're asking for. We are going to ask for 8.2 million because in case we do have that crazy new property, we don't want to leave any money on the table. And then finally, the last line, we do not levy for the bonds at this time. They do that when it was issued back in 2020. But I think it's always good for the community to see how much levy money we are asking for, which is the 8.7 million.
Okay, always love this slide because as a homeowner myself, we always wanna know, okay, really, how does that impact me? I am the same. So we always put up this slide and it shows the estimated increase from 127.5. We don't know what the village is doing. We don't know what the library is asking for. So this slide represents, with me estimating a 3% decrease in the EAV, I'm saying if you have $175,000 home value in 2024, 2025, we're estimating, we don't know that. I'm saying it's gonna decrease. Our annual bill would increase $42.35. That's not a month, that is for an entire year. If you had a $275,000 home, your increase from our school district portion alone on an annual basis is anticipated to be about $78. Just on, so
Under $10 a month.
find out, yes, yeah.
That's
And
a clear thing.
in, when you put all of that money together cumulatively, it's an additional $230,000 for the school district. And like with that CPI, 2.9%, every bill we're always getting, it's more, no prices go down. So we would be asking the board to approve the levy for that. I think I already just talked about this slide, there's my 230,000. And, we always like to share what's next. We now have to post our levy notice 30 days in advance on the website. So that date was actually last year, so that is posted on the website. We'll be asking the board to approve the levy tonight. And we will put a public notice in the newspaper on Thursday. Now, this is a legal notice that we do not actually have to publish. There's a rule if you ask for more than 5%. Historically, whatever we have asked for, we've never asked for more than 5. We always put this publication in the newspaper just as a matter of transparency. And then we'll have the public hearing in December. I know it's really fun and riveting stuff. Any questions? Choose up.
Do we know when their TIF is, I forget when Curie Ridge's TIF is done. It's like
2030, excellent question. For some reason, I thought it was actually 2026. I was kind of getting excited because that's a lot of additional revenue. We still have a few years.
Okay. All right, so, so the balloon levy would be that would be where Curie Ridge would be in third, correct?
Yes, but
Okay.
obviously that balloon levy would be much larger.
Much larger.
Yes, this
Right.
would be to kind of capture that new car wash that's there.
And the 4 new houses that are going in.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. And I'll just sneak in my other right away, tax bills for the county will be going out on November 15th. And then, I'm sorry, I believe November 14th, and then the due date is gonna be December 15th. So those are unfortunately gonna be coming. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I do have 7.2, which is the FY 26 schools maintenance project grant. INFI has once again offered school districts up to $15,000 to put towards the project. We have been applying and receiving it for at least the last 4 years now. And so, we will be asking the board to approve that. And right now, our only large project for the summer of 2026 is the building controls project over at Finley, which is basically identical to what was done over at Ridge Central. And we just need the board approval before I can actually hit the submit button. That's all I have. Thank you.
7.3 other. 8.0 old business, 8.1 other, 9.0 new business. Okay, 9.1 potential board action to approve the tentative 2025 property tax levy.
I'll make a motion. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamble.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Buzzard.
Aye.
Mrs. Bergen. Aye. Mrs. Metropolis.
I 9.2 potential board action to authorize and direct administration to prepare and submit a timely application the Illinois State Board of Education for the School Project Management Grant for the fiscal year of 2026.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Levitt.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Chop.
Hi, 9.3, potential board action to post the policies listed on the agenda for a first reading.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Most of them are legal requirements. We have one question we have to answer, and I'm just gonna read it because it makes me laugh that we have to answer this. But does the board provide instructions studying the causes and effects of the Irish famine? Yes, we do. So that will go down. Paul, Mr. Miller, who is here, he's the one who teaches that story.
9.4.
I'll make a motion.
Apologize.
Second. No, sorry, who's on the phone? Me. Oh, thank you. Mrs. Levitt.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Birkin.
Aye.
Mrs. Chop.
Aye. 9.4, potential board action to approve a revised 25-26 school year calendar to reflect the graduation date change.
May 28th.
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Levitt.
Aye.
Mrs. Chop.
Aye. 9.5 other. Okay, so 10.0 meeting reports. 10.1 other, 11.0 informational, 11.1 other, 12.0 opportunity for visitors to speak. Going twice, okay. 13.0 president's prerogative. I do have something prepared, so I would apologize for my being so verbose, but I wanted to recognize a few people. I do have to say, I feel like winter flipped a switch fast. It went from warming to freezing. And just like that, we're headed into Thanksgiving break. We won't see any of you before then. So I wish staff and everyone, and before we know it, it'll be winter break. So I would be remiss without, Anna already mentioned it, that it is Veterans Day today. And, you know, we at the school honor veterans, and remember, you know, those who served our country and our community. Here at the school, we do it. If you look around the village, you can see light poles that have banners of family members, of community members, or community members themselves, that, you know, probably display the local heroes. I love to see it in Worth and all over. And it just reminds us of the importance in honoring this day of, you know, acts of service, community, and leadership. And I hope that, you know, that's something that everyone who is a part of the school district wants to instill in the next generation of people to come. I also wanted to make a point to talk about School Board Appreciation Day. I just think that I'd like to recognize all of the school board members that I work with. You know, it is a really unified board, and it's nice that we all give each other the space to allow discussion, but really we have a great shared vision and a lot of respect for each other. But I mean, the board wouldn't be anything without the teachers and the staff. Your dedication and creativity make us what we are here at the district. And it's the students and families, thanking them for trusting us to kind of lead and help in the decision making and being a part of this journey with the district. I'm just really, really proud to be able to serve as a part of the community. I went to these schools when I was a child. My children go here, and as a parent and an adult and a homeowner, it makes me proud to be on the school board and a part of all this. So I know we're ending the first trimester. Here's to a strong end. It's this Friday, or was it last Friday?
This Friday.
Friday.
This Friday.
This Friday, and here is to a strong end, and it's gonna go like a barrel roll really fast into winter break. So thank you to everyone who's involved. All right, so 14.0, adjourn to closed session.
Yes, we're going to the closed session for the discussion of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of a public body, or legal counsel of the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation of a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act as defined in the Open Meetings Act, section 2C1. The discussion of collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees as described in section 2C2. Purpose or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired and defined in section 2C5. The discussion of student disciplinary cases as defined in section 2C9. The discussion of pending or probable and imminent litigation against, affecting, or on behalf of the district as defined in section 2C11. And the discussion of minutes of prior meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act as defined in section 2C21. For the purpose of review, approval, or release of such minutes, we will not be discussing any security measures during closed session.
I make a motion.
Mrs. Minima.
Aye.
Mrs. Bergen.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Crowe.
Aye.
Mrs. Blazer.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown.